All right, let's get right into it. We usually think of prayer as this deeply personal, purely spiritual thing, right? Something that's, well, beyond measure. But what happens when you take that ancient practice and put it under a scientific microscope? So what does it actually do? Well, based on dozens and dozens of studies, we're going to dig into the surprising and, yeah, measurable sides of this universal human practice. We're talking about everything from how certain postures can literally make you more flexible, to how focused thought can rewire your brain, and even how praying together can strengthen an entire community. All right, first up, let's look inward at the mind and spirit. So, what's actually happening inside our heads when we pray? The research points to some pretty profound connections between that focused devotion and our overall psychological well-being. Okay, so one of the most crucial ideas that keeps popping up in the research is this concept called hushu. It's basically a state of deep, focused devotion. And what researchers found, study after study, is that it's not just about, going through the motions. It's the quality of your focus that really matters. That seems to be the key that unlocks a lot of the mental benefits. Think of it as the difference between just kind of mumbling the words and being truly mindfully engaged. And getting into that focused state, it has some seriously powerful results. Studies have looked at everyone from med students cramming for exams to people facing huge life challenges, and they keep finding these consistent links. Prayer seems to work like a tool for regulating your emotions. It measurably dials down stress and anxiety, it helps you focus better, it encourages optimism, and this is a big one, it helps build the kind of mental resilience you need to get through the really tough stuff. Okay, but it's not all just in your head. This is where it gets really interesting. The research shows that prayer isn't just a mental thing. It's a physical practice. It has real tangible effects on your body. Yeah, scientists are actually using modern tools to measure exactly how the movements, the postures, the breathing involved in prayer rituals affect our bodies. And honestly, some of the results are pretty unexpected. This is where a spiritual practice has these direct physical consequences. For instance, get this. One study found that a specific bowing posture actually improved hamstring flexibility. Who would have thought? Others have seen real changes in brain activity and how neurons connect during prayer. They've even measured shifts in things like eye pressure during prostration. And some research suggests it can trigger the release of endorphins, the body's own natural painkiller. And what's really fascinating is how adaptable this all is. That's a huge area of study, actually. Researchers look at how the physical side of it changes in the real world. For patients in a hospital after surgery, or for elderly folks, or even for people with things like scoliosis or hip replacements. It really shows you that the physical part of prayer isn't some rigid, one-size-fits-all thing. It's a dynamic, living practice that adapts to people's lives. Okay, so we've touched on the mind and the body, right? The individual experience. But what happens when it's not just you? What happens when prayer becomes a shared, collective thing? Well, that's where this whole other social dimension kicks in. So, what happens when we pray together? The research is super clear about this. When prayer becomes a shared thing, its whole purpose just expands. It goes from being purely personal to being deeply social. It literally becomes a tool for building community.
You can almost think of it like weaving a social fabric. Praying in a group, it strengthens social bonds, it creates a shared identity, it really acts like a kind of social glue. Look at studies on interfaith prayer gatherings. They show how that shared moment can be an incredibly powerful platform for bringing different groups together. Maybe it's to mourn a tragedy, or to celebrate something they all believe in, or even just to work on a common goal. It builds bridges.
So when you take all these different threads, the psychological, the physical, and the social, and you start weaving them together, you get this much bigger, more complete picture of what prayer is. It becomes really clear that it's not just one thing, is it? Prayer is a mental exercise that helps with our emotions. It's a physical practice that engages our bodies. And it's a social ritual that builds communities. It's doing all of that at the same time. So in the end, looking at prayer through a scientific lens doesn't take away the mystery. If anything, it kind of makes it even more profound. It just shows how deeply this practice is woven into the very fabric of who we are, our psychology, our biology, and our communities. It really points to this fundamental human need we all have for meaning, for connection, not just with each other, but with ourselves too.